We are live. Good morning, everybody over on Rumble. Good morning on YouTube. Good morning, X. Good morning over on Facebook. Facebook, we are good. Yesterday, I don't know what Facebook was doing yesterday, but looks like it's working today. Good morning over there on LinkedIn. Oh, I didn't know I could do this. Okay, I will do this. I just saw something on LinkedIn that I can do that I didn't know I could do. Now I'm doing it. Okay, good morning on LinkedIn. Good morning on Instagram. I said Instagram already. Good morning, everybody over there on TikTok. Let's see what we got over here. To Amber and Beyond, you're here early today. I usually see you jump in later. You're here. Erica Farrell, good morning. Good to see you. Erica Farrell, #1 badge already. Good morning, Nikki. Happy Friday to everybody out there. The topic here today, we are going to talk about the grifters. We're going to point out who the grifters are. Maybe I'm a grifter. Maybe I'm going to out myself as a grifter today. We're going to talk about who the grifters are. Who's a grifter? Who's real? How do we know if somebody is a grifter or is grifting? This is a topic that needs to be discussed because this term is getting thrown around a lot, very recklessly, if you ask me. And we're going to discuss it here today. Caro Z, good morning to you as well. What I got here? How many points I got here? Okay, so we should leave a healthy enough time for some good discussion here today, because this is one that keeps getting thrown around, and again, we got to get to the bottom of this. We got to get to the bottom of this topic. The grifters. Who is a grifter? Who is real? For those of you, I don't really need to give too much intro to this. Let's just get right to it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Baldwin. Many know me as DreAllDay, former 9-year pro athlete, author of 41 books, done 4 TEDx talks, and have this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do is we help professional entrepreneurs systematize and scale their businesses from the 6-figure to the 7-figure level. You can learn more about that at workonyourgameuniversity.com or the links you see in my profile on whatever platform you are watching on. I'm on 7 different platforms right now: Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. So we're streaming 7 different places right now, even though each of you is watching probably on one of them. Let's get into the topic here. First of all, let's get a definition of this word grifter, because everybody's throwing this term around often. Actually, I'm not even going to get into any more intro because I'm going to say it all once I get into my points. Definition of a grifter is a person who engages in petty or small-scale swindling. That's the definition. Let me say it again. A person who engages in petty or small-scale swindling, this is known as a grifter. And we can also just say a person who is scamming, or a con man, or someone who is somehow, some way making money by deceiving and manipulating other people out of their money. That is a grifter. Now this term has always existed, but again, all of a sudden, thank you for the gifts over there, Amber. All of a sudden, this has become this term that everybody is using. I don't know when this started. I would say this probably started in the last like 7 to 8 years. That's when I started hearing people use this term a lot, often using it as a pejorative to attack somebody who they don't like for whatever reason. This is like the new slur. The new slur is to tell someone that they are a grifter, and it's basically a tool that people are using to discredit anybody with whom they disagree. That's pretty much what a grifter is. I disagree with you, so instead of just saying I disagree with you or actually challenging your point, the actual thing that you actually said, instead what I'm going to do is just call you a grifter as a way of, again, discrediting you and undermining your authority to talk on whatever topic you're talking on. I even see people do this in the third person. So, for example, when I say something like, I will offer some position or some opinion on something, specifically this happens on X a lot, and it happens on here as well, but often people will do it on here in the comment section sometimes when I'm doing my live streams. But on X, when I'm talking to people textually, I'll say something like, hey, Candace Owens did a discussion on this and she broke this piece down. And I won't even say that I have the information. I'll say, well, I watched Candace Owens. She described it and she broke it down really well. And a person who doesn't like Candace Owens, or they just disagree with the point that I made. This happened just last week, as a matter of fact. Let me see if I don't know if I can find it because I can't remember exactly what I was talking about, but there are so many threads of conversations. There was what was being talked about? I'm trying to remember what the subject was. Can't remember what the subject was, but anyway, there was some female. They appeared to be a female. They presented as a female on X, and I had made a point. They had disagreed with what I said, and I don't always respond to everybody's response, but I did respond to hers, and I said, well, Candace Owens said ABC. and she broke it down and provided the information from which I draw my opinion, or at least some of my opinion. And the girl responded by saying, well, Candace Owens, she's a grifter, and she hates herself, and she hates black people, and she's always attacking black people. And this is the kind of, again, undermining of the source, rather than addressing the actual point that the source made, but still just trying to undermine the source itself. So whatever you said all of a sudden is not credible, simply because people try to undermine the place from which it comes. Same thing people have done. I've had people do this even on here when I'm doing my lives. I'll ask ChatGPT a question because I don't have the direct answer myself. And y'all have seen me do this live right while I'm doing the live stream. And somebody will say, oh, well, you're asking ChatGPT. As if that means somehow, some way, whatever position I have or whatever conclusion I come to is not credible simply because I asked ChatGPT a question. Or somebody will say, I saw somebody say this yesterday, I think it was Mark Lamont Hill on X. And he had posted about himself doing something, and then someone else responded and said something, and he responded to their response. And I just saw his response to their response because he had quote tweeted it. And he was saying, well, people have to stop going to places like ChatGPT and AI and considering them to be credible sources. Well, there's a problem with that. The problem is, what credible sources do we have? What's a credible source these days? Can anybody tell me? What do we absolutely all agree is a credible source? And the answer is nothing. We don't agree on anything to be a credible source. So you can pretty much come up with any pejorative, slur, or attack on any source that you don't want to believe the information from if you don't want to believe the information. I've given this example before. I was talking to an older black guy years ago. We were talking about intra-racial violence. In other words, violence that races do to each other. And I was talking about black on black crime, and they were saying, well, what's the data you have on black crime? I gave them the link to the data straight from the FBI's UCR data, Unified Crime Reporting data, and it showed that black people are committing murder at a rate that's 5 times higher than white people. And the person said, well, I don't believe the data. I'm like, how don't you believe the data? It's coming straight from the FBI, straight from the government. And they said, well, the government can make up stats. And this is a person who had already taken 5 of the shots of the jab several years ago. So you believed the government back then when they told you to take the jab, and you took all the shots and still got the virus that you allegedly were being inoculated from. But now that you don't like the information that the government is giving you, all of a sudden you don't believe what the government says because they might be lying to you. And the point being is that Grifter is just another form of this. It's just another form of undermining a source when you don't want to hear it. And the thing is, what we're going to do here today is we're going to try to get to the bottom of who's a grifter and who's not a grifter. How can we have some type of framework for understanding who's actually grifting versus who's not grifting, and to make sure that all of you, 2 things. Number one, you are prepared when someone else either tries to call you a grifter because they disagree with something that you're saying, if you happen to be a publisher like I am, or you are prepared to defend, or you understand, rather, is a better way of saying it, because you may not even want to get into a back and forth with a person who uses this pejorative, but you are prepared mentally to understand that if you tell someone that you believe something that they strongly do not want to go along with, they may call you or the source from which you got your information a grifter. So let's say you got your information from some person online that person doesn't like. They'll just say, well, that person's a grifter. So any information you got from them is obviously not true. Okay, ask them where they got their information from. They're going to give you a source, and you can say, well, that person's a grifter. So how are we ever going to agree on anything? And again, folks, this is the foundation of why we're in an information war. And this information war is not going to end. I don't see this information war ending unless is there a way for this war to end? There's really not. It's not really a way for this war to end unless America becomes a dictatorship. And even then, it's still an information war. It's just the war is going to be really subtle and quiet, where you can't have the war out loud. We're having an information war out loud right now in the United States of America simply because we have free speech. Anybody can, for the most part, you can say pretty much anything you want to say. You can share any information or view or perspective that you wish to have. You can share it, even if you don't believe it, even if a bunch of people staunchly disagree with you, you can still share it. And the fact of the matter is, because we have so much access to information these days, whether that information is true or not true, whether it is verified and credible or not, we all have access to it. Therefore, you and I could come up with 100 different pieces of information on the exact same subject and not be on the same page on any one of them. And neither one of us has to believe the other one, because I can just undermine your sources. You can undermine my sources. And who is the authority on what source we have to respect? The answer is there isn't one. That's the problem. Even dictionaries these days, you look at one dictionary and look up a word, they're going to give you some definition. Then you go to a different dictionary, look up the same word, and you want to get a completely different not completely different, but a different enough definition that we can have two different perspectives on the exact same word. And the reason why words matter is because, in the dictionary as well, is that words are the basis of language. Well, it's letters first, then words make up language. And if we can't agree on what a word means, and we can't agree on what words mean in general, how the hell are we going to communicate? We can't. Same way as if you go to another country and they're speaking a language which you don't speak, and they don't speak the language that you speak, well, you can't communicate with them. You can't really get along with these people. You can't do anything. You can't ask them a question. They can't answer it because you can't communicate with them. And this is the reason why language matters so much. One of the reasons why humans dominate the planet is because we have these complex methods of communication. Other animals communicate as well. Elephants and bears and tigers, they communicate as well. But we have a more complex method of communicating. This is one of the reasons why we dominate the animal kingdom, even though a lot of animals are bigger, stronger, and faster than us. We have ability to think that they don't have. The point of all this is, and this is going on a tangent from the main point here today, is that this is not something that can be fixed. That's what I want you all to understand. I'm not going to offer you a conclusion here today. I'm going to give you somewhat of a conclusion in a tongue-in-cheek way, but there's no real solution is actually the word I'm looking for. There's no solution to this problem. The solution to the problem is your acceptance that no one has to accept your information if they don't want to accept your information. They can come up with any justification they want for not accepting your information, one of them being calling your source a grifter. Such as, for example, there's somebody probably listening to me right now, whether live or on replay, who is not going to agree with something that I say here today, whether from my material or from me answering a question, and they're going to decide, okay, this guy is a grifter, whether I'm grifting or not. They're just going to say, hey, this guy's a grifter, so I'm not going to listen to anything he says. Lowen Johan, I see you over there on Instagram. Have a good day. So they're going to decide this guy's a grifter, so anything he says, I'm just going to discredit it just because I'm calling him a grifter. Or they may say it just to see how I'm going to respond to it, and they're actually just trolling. So the definition of grifter, again, I'm going to get a definition one more time, so all you got it. A person who engages in petty or small-scale swindling. In other words, this is called a con man or a scammer, if you're going to call somebody a grifter. This is the new slur that I just explained to you, and someone happens to be doing something. Let's just assume that they're doing something on a business or professional level, meaning money is being made. So usually people only call you a grifter if they either know or they have reason to believe that you are somehow conducting business behind your position or opinion. So if I was just on here talking and I wasn't doing anything business-wise related to what I'm talking about, then most people would not call me a grifter. But sometimes when I'm talking about a certain topic, it can have nothing to do with anything I do business-wise. Let's say back in September of 2024, I did a whole live stream questioning Kamala Harris's blackness, because she was claiming that she was black, and she was leveraging that in order to be in her position, first as vice president, then as the presidential nominee, quote unquote. And people will say, well, you're just grifting, because they disagreed with me because they were clearly Kamala supporters, Democrats, whatever. And they were going to vote for Kamala Harris and didn't like Trump. They said, well, you're grifting. You're a grift. And what am I grifting on? Again, I'm not in the political space professionally. I don't do anything professionally in the political space. But they say you're a grifter because it looks like this guy's doing some kind of business, and you see books on the bookshelf, and he's presenting himself in a professional way, even though I don't like what he's saying. So they would just call you a grifter. This is the new lazy way of disagreement. This is the lazy disagreement that makes someone sound smart. And again, it's an effective tool for undermining another person. You undermine the person rather than undermining the point. I love undermining people's points. I won't undermine you as a person, but I will undermine your point, because a person who I like could make a point that is nonsense, and it needs to be identified as nonsense. Like, I like you as a person, but that point is garbage. And I could disagree with a person fundamentally, what they're about or what they bring to the table, while at the same time, okay, that point that they made is actually a very good point. That's a solid point this person made, even though I may generally disagree with their overall, the overall overview of what they're bringing to the table. So the calling someone a grifter is a form of the ad hominem logical fallacy. Those of you not familiar with the ad hominem, all of you are familiar with it, even if you don't know the title, because you have either used it or had it used against you. The ad hominem logical fallacy, ad hominem translates to the person. That's what it means. The phrase ad hominem means to the person. In other words, if I was to make a point like Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James, and you say something like, well, you're just an old guy who's still living in the past and living in the 90s, so that's the reason why you say it. Now, you didn't say anything to actually address my point of Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. All you did was attack me as a person, as a way of undermining my position. That's the ad hominem logical fallacy. So again, even though you may not have known the term and you don't call it that, all of you have probably used this at some point, or you have used it against, or had someone use it against you, where they just come at you on a personal level because they don't like what you said, again, logically, whatever point it is that you made. So rather than addressing the point, you address the person. And since I've told you all 3 common truths about human beings. Number 1, most people do not think. Number 2, most people do not read. And number 3, most people are both mentally and physically lazy. This is an easier way of undermining somebody and or disagreeing with them rather than doing the mental work required to think about, does their point actually make sense? And if I disagree with their point, why do I disagree with their point? And how can I put that into words to where they would understand my disagreement? And maybe anybody else who's hearing the conversation could possibly understand and or be persuaded by my disagreement. But this requires a certain amount of thinking. And thinking is mental and intellectual work. So there is a certain amount of thinking that happens unconsciously. This is the subconscious mind or unconscious thought, whatever way you want to label it. Actually, that's happening all the time. The problem is conscious thinking, first of all, requires intention. You have to consciously be thinking about what you're thinking about. And number 2, whatever's in your subconscious mind is based on what you are consistently taking in or putting into yourself on purpose or just taking in based on your environment. The problem with this is, even though that constance of thinking is occurring, since I just told you most people don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy, most people's unconscious thought patterns are just a bunch of nonsense that's in their minds. So it's what you're watching on TV, it's whatever nonsense you're consuming on YouTube or on TikTok, or the information you're getting, if you want to call it information, the material you're taking in from the people you're around and the environments that you're in. So if you're hanging around a bunch of your coworkers and they're all about pretty much a whole bunch of nothing, well, what's going to be going into your head if you're not doing anything intentional to alter it? If you're hanging around your family members and the people in your neighborhood and they're all about a whole bunch of nothing, none of them is doing anything to move themselves forward. Again, what is going to be in your head? This is the reason why the law of association is what it is. The law of association, those of you who haven't heard of it, states you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. It does not matter how many. It could be 5, it could be 2, it could be 100, it could be 12. Whatever number of people you spend the most time with, you are becoming them because they have some form of influence on you and their presence is affecting what goes into your subconscious mind. And if you want to make any changes in your life in the big picture, this is something that I talk about all the time with people when it comes to mindset and personal and professional growth. You want to make any changes in your life in the big picture, the most important thing you need to do is alter your subconscious thought patterns. Now, how do you alter your subconscious thought patterns? What are the 3 things that you can do? You have 3 possibilities for doing this. You can use 1, you can use 2, you can use all 3. Number 1 is emotionalization. These are not in any particular order. Emotionalization. You have a strong emotional experience. It can alter your subconscious thought patterns with only 1 exposure. For example, you get in a car accident or you get cancer or somebody who's very close to you passes away. That 1 experience can alter your life forever, even though you only experienced it 1 time and the whole situation only lasted 5 minutes. It can change your entire life. Number 2 is immersion. Immersion is when you go to an environment where you are completely immersed. So just think of jumping in a pool and you're completely under the water. You're immersed in the water. And you probably can't be thinking about too many other things other than how do I get out of this water or how long can I stay under here before I can't breathe anymore or before I run out of breath and I need to get air again. When you're completely immersed, you are pretty much entrenched in the situation or whatever the situation happens to be. So there are some events, for example, Tony Robbins comes to mind. The event is a complete immersion where the only energy you can engage with the entire time you're there is the energy of the event. And they designed the event specifically to be like that, to where you probably are not even going to be able to think about anything other than what's happening right there in the moment. And if you want to program your subconscious mind a certain way, you go to any type of event that is an immersion, and that's the kind of thing that happens. You want another tangible example of this? Imagine if you went to like a hot yoga class. And you ever done hot yoga? I've never done hot yoga. I like room temperature yoga, but hot yoga I've never done, but I've seen it. I see hot yoga studios. They're very popular. And a hot yoga studio, when you're in the midst of doing that yoga class, you probably are not going to be able to think about too many other things, especially if it's one of the first few times that you've done it, because the immersion of the environment, first of all, it's hot as hell. and you're sweating and you're losing a lot of fluid, and there's 30 other people in the room who are experiencing the exact same thing, and you're supposed to be following whatever the instructions are of the class, that immersion basically forces you to focus only on what you're doing during that moment. This is another thing that happens for people who work out. Certain workouts, depending on what they are. You're in a boot camp class, or you got a personal trainer, or you do a CrossFit, or you run a marathon. You're immersed in the environment and in the experience. And when you're in that immersion, this is when you can start to, depending on what you're taking in, program the subconscious mind, and or you can hear communication from the subconscious that otherwise will not get through to you, because your conscious mind speaks in a conversational, everyday tone. Like I'm talking right now. This is like the voice of the conscious mind, what I'm saying right now. The subconscious mind speaks in a very quiet, hushed whisper, which means if the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are both trying to communicate with you at the same time, you will not hear what the subconscious mind is saying. The thing is, and the reason why that matters, is because the subconscious mind will give you the ideas and the breakthroughs and the insights that you need that will help you make advances in life much more than your conscious mind will. Your conscious mind is just constant chatter that's going on that, again, is reflective of whatever you have going on right now in the moment, or whatever thoughts you told yourself you needed to remember to think about. That's the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is where all the insights and the breakthroughs come from. The thing is, you can't hear the subconscious mind until you quiet the conscious mind. This is the reason why meditation exists. Or many people nowadays, we have mindfulness exercises. Meditation and mindfulness exercises. Speaking of yoga, this is another time when people can get into that meditative state. Or any of you who likes to run, you run 7 miles. In the middle of that run, you're in your zone of the run. You're not really thinking about anything else. In the subconscious mind, because you don't need to think when you're in the midst of doing that. The subconscious mind can start communicating with you while you're in the middle of your workout. This happens to some of you when you're in the shower. When you're doing something that doesn't require conscious thinking, the subconscious mind can get through to you. This is the reason why human beings have long had these practices of, how can I take some time to create some mental space for myself to where I don't need to constantly think about anything, so I can kind of calm down, relax, and my subconscious mind can get through to me. Most people don't say that, but the subconscious mind can get through to you in those moments when you are calm, relaxed, you're not consciously needing to do anything, and you're not just go, and now the subconscious can get through to you. So immersion is one of the ways that you can do that. And understand that immersion doesn't mean you have to be actively at a Tony Robbins conference or in a hot yoga studio. You can get to an immersive state sitting at home with incense burning on your couch. As long as there's not a TV on, as long as you don't have earbuds in your ear, as long as there's no music playing, and as long as there's not a bunch of people running around trying to get your attention. If you just sit there and just relax for a minute, eventually you'll be in an immersive state of relaxation, and now the subconscious mind can communicate with you, and you can communicate with it. So immersion is the second way to program the subconscious. So we got emotionalization. Number 2 is immersion. Number 3 is repetition. This is the one that's most conscious, is repetition. Everybody knows what repetition means. It means the same things over and over and over and over again. You do anything over and over again, the subconscious mind eventually picks up on the activity, and the subconscious mind takes over the task from your conscious mind, to the point that you can do that thing without even thinking about the fact that you're doing it, and it appears to be automatic. For example, many of you who are dressed right now, you tied your shoes. If you have on shoes that have laces, almost all of you who do, you tied your shoes today, and you probably didn't have to consciously think about, how do I tie my shoes? You did it automatically because the subconscious mind has taken over the task to the point that you don't even have to think about it, you just do it. Any of you who has gotten in a car today, some of you may be in a car right now, you are driving, but you're not consciously thinking about, all right, how do I keep the car on the road and keep it within the lines? And if you come up to a red light, you don't think about, how do I push the brake? How do I move my foot from the gas pedal to the brake pedal? And then when the light turns green, how do I move my foot from the brake pedal to the gas pedal? Or how do I signal to switch lanes or to turn right? You don't have to think about any of those things. You do it unconsciously because you've done it so many times. And this is what repetition is. When you do anything over and over and over and over again, eventually the subconscious mind understands that this is going to be a routine, is going to be a habit, and the subconscious mind takes on the task to the point that you no longer have to consciously think about what you're doing. That's how repetition works. The good thing about repetition is that it is the most conscious way to program the subconscious. That's the good thing about repetition. The most conscious way to program the subconscious is through repetition, because immersion, you have to create an environment to allow yourself to be immersed, and maybe you don't have the resources to do that. Actually, some of you do it without even thinking about it. How many of you has ever been in a situation in your life where you can't really ever get any peace? So at home is people there and you can't get any peace and quiet. And then when you go to work, is people there. And then when you go to the gym, anywhere you go, there's just people everywhere. You can't get any peace. So you might have found yourself at a certain point getting in your car, locking the doors, not even going anywhere. Or maybe you do go somewhere, but you're not really going anywhere because you don't have anywhere to go. But you just get in the car and have all the windows rolled up and you just sit there in the car or drive in the car just so you can get 20 minutes of peace and quiet and nobody bothering you. Put yes if you ever had that. Someone said the YouTube feed, the sound is off. Let's see. I can't tell. I have no idea, no way of knowing. But how many of you have ever done this? How many of you have ever gone to a situation where you just sat in the car for complete peace just because you couldn't get peace anywhere else? It's too much noise in the house. Anywhere else you go to Starbucks is noise. Anywhere you go is noise. You just get in the car just so you can be peaceful and not be bothered. That's a form of immersion. So again, you don't have to go sign up and buy a ticket to a conference to get immersion. You can get immersion just by, again, most human beings, we all need some form of immersion. We all need it at some point. This is the reason why we all sleep. Biology demands that we sleep. So a bunch of you have said that. I see a bunch of you saying that you've done that before. Biology demands sleep. Well, what is happening when we're sleeping? We're in a peaceful, immersed state where we're not consciously thinking about anything, but the subconscious mind is going to work on whatever you were consciously thinking about during the day, especially whatever you thought about the last 10 or so minutes before you fall asleep. We all need that peace in that space. Any of you has ever tried, or all of you have probably at some point pulled an all-nighter, stayed up for 24 hours straight. Thing is, you can't do that over and over and over again. The human body will demand that you go to sleep no matter how hard you try to stay up. If you try to do, I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body. He wrote a bunch of 4-hour books. But in the 4-Hour Body, Tim Ferriss talked about this, that he was trying to defy sleep. Like, can we figure out a way to just not sleep? Some of you may know about this, but Thomas Edison, who was credited with the invention of the light bulb, he once talked about how eventually in the future, we're going to have so many lights. This is, I think, before he even mastered the light bulb. He talked about how we're going to be able to, as humans, to have lights everywhere, because back before the light bulb was invented, for those of y'all to understand, of course we had candles and stuff, but for the most part, people had to live by the sun. So when the sun came up, everybody was awake and did their stuff, and when the sun went down, it just got dark because there were no lights. So imagine any of you who lives in a small town. I've been in some of these small places where there's not a lot of street lights, and I remember I was running on the sidewalk, and I'm like, yo, where the hell are the street lights? I can't see anything. It's like I'm running in pitch black, and I can't see anything. I can't run on the street anymore. I can't run here anymore because I can't see anything. And it's early in the morning. I'm used to big cities where there's lights everywhere, and there's always some kind of light everywhere. But in the smaller towns, you go on these long strip of road, and there's no lights, so you can't see anything. Like, it could be a wolf jumping out of the woods and grab me, and I can't even see it coming because there's no lights. But anyway, Thomas Edison used to talk about, once we master the light bulb, because he was pretty sure they were going to master it, we'll be able to light up cities and light up our homes and light up all of life. And his theory was, this is the way a lot of people thought back then, that the only reason people go to sleep at night is because we don't have enough light to keep us awake. If we had more light, people would just stay awake. Why go to sleep if we got light all the time? We got light 24 hours a day. We don't have to go to sleep. So Thomas Edison's, the way he sold it, I don't know if he truly believed this, because Thomas Edison was actually a very good salesperson, was he would say, once we get the light bulb, man will not need to sleep anymore, and we're going to become so productive because we're all going to stay awake 24 hours a day, and we never need to go to sleep because the light will keep us awake, and we can just keep working. We don't need to go to sleep because it's not pitch black like it is these days. Now, again, I don't know if Thomas Edison truly believed this, but he was pushing his marketing ideas. This is the way he got funding for a lot of his projects. A lot of people don't know that. But anyway, we found out Thomas Edison was wrong. Humans need sleep. I mentioned Tim Ferriss. I brought him up for a reason because he tried to defy sleep. He did this exercise. He talked about it in his book, where he was going to stay awake for, I forget what it was. He would just stay awake, and then every like 2 hours or 3 hours, something like that, he would take a 20-minute nap. And he would time his nap and actually set an alarm for 20 minutes. He would get up after 20 minutes, then keep doing stuff. Then he would take another nap. Another 3 or 4 hours go by. He takes a 20-minute nap. And let me back up. His hypothesis was, he was testing the hypothesis. How can I find out if I can stay awake as much as possible by just taking these 20-minute naps every 3 or 4 hours? And the conclusion of his experiment was, by the time he got to about the second day, somewhere around that 48-hour mark, what happened was he started getting really violent hallucinations. Really violent hallucinations, simply because his brain was giving him a signal: you can't keep doing this. You must actually go to sleep. And he had to take himself to sleep, and that was the end of his experiment. And the point being, folks, biologically, we have to sleep. And one of the reasons why biologically we have to sleep is because the subconscious mind, your conscious mind, needs some space. That's one of the reasons why you have to sleep. And of course, the physical repairments of the body, the mental repairments of the brain, all happen when we're sleeping. And the other one I said, emotionalization, is, well, you got to learn how to tap into those emotions. So actors and actresses, whoever, any of you done any acting or taking acting classes, method actors are really good at this, at tapping into an emotion and making themselves cry on cue. And just by thinking about something that makes them sad, and they can cry for the script, whatever they're supposed to be acting out. And all of you, though, should be able to, I would suggest all of you be able to tap into any type of emotion just by drawing on a situation from your past and then channeling that emotion into whatever action you need to take in a moment. So people who are athletes, for example, when we train, getting ready for competition or just working out in general, we learn to tap into certain emotions, and whether that emotion be joy, happiness, anger, frustration, sadness, whatever, and channeling that emotion, because there's energy in emotion, channeling that emotion and the energy within into positive action that we can take in the mornings, in the moment, such as lifting weights or running faster or making a shot in a basketball game or beating up your opponent in a cage or in a boxing ring. Is just channeling those emotions. When it comes to repetition, however, you don't really need to manufacture this as much as the other two. Repetition is just anything you do over and over again. Good news for all of you: most of us do everything over and over again every single day without even thinking about it. We call these habits. Your habits are a reflection of your repetitions. They're a reflection of the things that you do so often that you stopped consciously thinking about it, and your subconscious mind now has full control over that behavior. Now, there's good news and bad news when it comes to habits and repetition. Let me tell you the bad news first. All right, the bad news is, actually, let me tell you the good news first. The good news is, the more things that you can turn into habit, the less conscious thinking you need to do, and the more kind of on call, the more automatically you'll do certain things in your life. The more habits you can create, the more automatically you'll do certain things in your life. Now, on that same note, here's the bad news about habits. It's actually the same news. Is that some of the things that we do over and over again are things that we actually don't want to be doing, yet we keep doing them. All right, how many of you can say you have a bad habit or two that you want to get rid of? Put the word "me" in the chat. Everybody has them. Everybody has some habits that we probably should drop. So some of you have the habit of, I know I want to wake up in the morning early and work out before I go to work. I talk to not often as many females, but males. Almost every male who I have worked with who's over the age of 30 has this problem. Actually, every male I talk to who's just an adult, period, has expressed some form of this problem. I want to wake up a little bit earlier than I normally wake up. So it'll be something like I wake up at 6 o'clock. So I see a bunch of you said me to that. So I know it applies to everybody. Everybody who's listening to this should be putting in me. So let's say your normal wake up time is 6 o'clock, so you get to work on time by 7:30. So somebody will say, well, Dre, here's what I'll do. I'll wake up at 5:30 or 5:15 instead of 6 o'clock. Then I get my workout in. I'll work out at home or I'll go to the gym. And then I'll be on my same routine to get ready and go to work. The problem is, the habit is that as soon as that alarm goes off at 5:15, which is 45 minutes less sleep than you're used to getting, you don't want to do it. So you hit the snooze button, you sleep for another 45 minutes. And even though you have the intention of getting up early to go work out, you keep not doing it. Why? Because for the last 15 years, you've been waking up at 6 o'clock. So now all of a sudden you're going to wake up at 5:15. Well, your habits are like, no, we're not doing this. Not so fast, my friend. We are not going to do this. And that's the reason why many people are unable to enact change in life. Not because you don't have the intention, not because you don't have the conscious intellectual desire to do something different. It's simply because your habits, which are controlled by the subconscious mind, are overpowering your conscious intentions. And this part matters because I'm supposed to be talking about grifting, but I'm talking about this. We're going to get back to the grifting in a minute. This occurs because the subconscious mind is a lot stronger than the conscious mind. Now, why does it matter that you understand this? It matters because your habits will overpower your intentions 8 days a week, 25 hours a day. Should I say it? Let me say that one more time because I want to make sure you heard it. Your habits will overpower your intentions 8 days a week, 25 hours per day. Meaning, if you have the intention of doing a thing, yet your habit is the opposite of that thing that you want to do, your habit will probably win. Therefore, if you want to make a change in your life, the most important thing you need to do is get conscious about things that are generally unconscious. This is the place where many people stumble. Many people stumble on this one by you want to make a change in your life, such as let me get up at 5 o'clock instead of getting up at 6 o'clock, but your habits are get up at 6 o'clock. So the subconscious mind is winning. You got to get conscious of the fact that this habit is there, and then ask yourself, what can I do to kind of alter the situation? Well, one thing you can do, and again, what I like to do with people is deconstruct. So we call this the reverse roadmap. So we deconstruct the roadmap. How do we get from, we want to get here, where are we at? How do we work backwards? One thing is, if you usually go to sleep at 10 o'clock and then you wake up at 6 o'clock because you're getting 8 hours of sleep, but now you want to get up at 5 o'clock, now you're only getting 7 hours of sleep and you're too tired on 7 hours, how about you go to bed at 9 o'clock? This is the way that you can consciously alter the structure of the situation to help you alter the subconscious program. So the conscious and the subconscious work together, but you must understand the subconscious has the most power, so you have to create a structure that allows the subconscious to cooperate with whatever it is that you want to do on a conscious level. But you have to be thinking about it, things that you normally don't think about. Again, it's like if I told you to think about it next time you tie your shoes, you'll probably mess it up. Why? Here's another thing. The subconscious mind works a lot faster and a lot more efficiently than the conscious mind. Anytime you take an activity that is generally handled by the subconscious and you start consciously thinking about what you're doing, you tend to mess it up. It's like if you're walking up some steps and you tell yourself, all right, step with the right foot, step with the left foot, don't trip over the stairs, make sure you get your foot up high enough. If you think about it, you might actually trip up the stairs, only because you're thinking about it. If you didn't think about it, you would do it without messing up. It will look completely smooth. That's the interesting thing about thought, is that once something becomes subconscious, it is best to not think about it so we can do it at its highest possible level. The problem with the problem is that if you have a habit that you don't want, you have to start thinking about it, and you got to consciously remind yourself of it over and over and over again. Again, this takes mental energy. You got to keep doing it until you get to the point that the subconscious mind gets to the point that we are changing the program. And to change the program, especially something that has been ingrained through repetition, you must over and over and over and over again remind yourself that I'm supposed to be doing this different. I'm supposed to be doing this different. I'm supposed to be doing this different. You got to keep reminding yourself until the subconscious mind gets the point. Now, depending on who you ask, a new habit can be created within 7 days, 15 days, 30 days, 90 days. Different people tell you different numbers. And the actual answer is it depends. How ingrained is the old habit and how important is the new habit? Because if the new habit includes, check this out, we're talking about programming the subconscious mind. If the new habit includes, because with repetition, if it also matters to you emotionally, and you also are immersing yourself in some way, then it will take much faster. This is the reason why when I said programming the subconscious mind, there are 3 ways to do it, but you can mix and match these ways. So if you combine all 3, you are emotionally engaged in it, you have an emotional reason why you want to do it, and you immerse yourself in the environment to where you kind of don't have another option, and you do it over and over and over again through repetition, that habit happens really quickly. But if you only have one, then it might not happen as fast. So let's just say the person who wakes up at 6 a.m. every day, they want to wake up at 5 a.m. And they say, all right, I'm going to do it by repetition, Dre. Well, how do we add in emotionalization and immersion into the situation? Well, actually very easily. Number one, let's say you just came from the doctor's office and the doctor says, hey, check this out, man. If you don't start working out and get yourself healthy, then you are not going to be alive to see your kids graduate from high school because you're about to have another heart attack and you're not going to make it another 5 years. So you need to actually you need to go to the health food store and start eating some more fruits and vegetables. You need to drink more water and you need to start exercising because you're not going to make it another 5 years if you don't get in shape. So now, does this person have an emotional reason to get up at 5 in the morning and work out? Yes, they do, because they don't want to die. Now, when it comes to immersion, what if you went and joined a CrossFit gym, and at the CrossFit gym you have friends there, and they all know each other because they all do the same workout of the day every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and you want to be part of the group, and you don't want to be left out, and you don't want to miss any workouts because you want to see all your friends at the CrossFit gym. That is a form of immersion. Because if you're just going to the gym for yourself, or you got a gym in your basement and it's just you working out by yourself, there's no immersion. It's not an immersion with other people. You can immerse with yourself, but that doesn't work for a lot of people. Some people are much more likely to show up to something if there's a bunch of other people who are there than they are going to show up just on their own. There are certain people who will show up to places by themselves, and it doesn't matter if anybody else is doing it. I'm that type of person. But there are other people who will show up if and when you can show them that everybody else is doing the same thing. Any of you's ever had any experience in network marketing, for example? And I have some experience in network marketing. And in network marketing, you'll see some of the same people who keep coming to every event. They're always there. They're at the trainings. They go to the national events. They go to every event, and they're not doing any other business. Any of you have any experience in network marketing? Please co-sign this. Put the word co-sign in the chat if any of you know what I'm talking about. I didn't build a career or a serious business in network marketing, but I have enough experience to have noticed this, is that there are people who will come to every single training, every single event. They will travel to the national events. They do everything that everybody's doing in the event. But then if you actually look at what they're doing on the business side, they're not actually doing anything. They're not doing anything. They're not selling anything. They're not making any money. They're only spending money just going to all the events. And why do they keep showing up? They keep showing up because the immersion of being part of the group. And some people are this way. They will show up when they're part of a group. And there are other people who don't need a group and they'll show up anyway. So whatever immersion is for you. And then if you add those two to the repetition, it is much more easy to build a habit. Everybody understand this? Because some people will quit on themselves very easily and not show up for themselves, because the only person who knows about you working out in your basement or not working out in your basement is just you. Nobody else knows whether you did it or not. And there are some people who that's enough for them to motivate them to go do it. Again, I put myself in that category. But there are other people who, if you gave them a basement to work out in, they're never going to touch that basement. That equipment's going to gather dust. But if you gave them the exact same workout to do, and they got 20 friends who's doing the same thing with them every morning, they will be at every single workout, even if they hate working out. Why? Because of the immersion of being around the other people, the connection and the relationships that come with it. So I say all that to say this: all of you need to know yourself well enough to know what will trigger you and what will move you to do the things that will alter your habits. What emotionally matters enough to you that is going to move you to the action of doing what you need to do. And again, this is different for everybody. What emotionalization? Number two, how do you want to immerse yourself? Immersion does not require other people. You can immerse yourself by being by yourself. Some people just like to be by themselves. I remember I was talking to this couple. I saw them. I was walking in Brickell a couple years ago, and they used to be my neighbors, or at least the guy did. He had this girl with him, and she was talking about how she will sit on her yoga mat and burn incense and just meditate for like 3 hours straight in the course of a day. That's immersion, but she's immersing by herself. That works for her. She'll sit on the balcony and immerse herself. That works for her. Some people would never do that by themselves. They would fall asleep if they did that. But if you take them to a yoga class and a bunch of their friends are in there, they'll do it. Or they'll go to a spin class or whatever their thing is. That's their form of immersion. And then the repetition is, again, how do you build the habit and how do you put the structure in place? So repetition is a form of discipline. Same thing, same way every time. And discipline is a byproduct of structure. So if you want to be more disciplined in anything you do in life, the most important thing you had to do is build a structure for that thing so you can do it over and over again. So all that said, my digression, this is not even a topic here today. We're supposed to be talking about grifters, or who's a grifter and who's not. So let me get back to where I was, because what I was explaining, the reason I went that direction is because I was explaining to you all that most people don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. And one of the reasons is people just build habits of not thinking, not reading, and being lazy. It's very easy to build those habits because the law of entropy states that you move into states of chaos and disorder unless you do something intentionally to not be there. In other words, everybody gets worse by default, in case any of you didn't catch it. By default, everybody gets worse. All right, this is the reason why as people get older, they get kind of slower and they get fatter and they are in worse shape and they aren't as sharp as they used to be 10, 20, 30 years ago. If you haven't seen somebody in 20 years and you see them now, if they were an adult last time you saw them, usually they're in a worse state mentally and physically than they were the last time you saw them. Why is this? Because the law of entropy states that you naturally get worse. That's what the law of entropy says. If I just put it in simple terms, it is natural for you to just get worse. That applies to every single one of you, including myself. It's natural to get worse. The only way somebody gets older as an adult, so after puberty, I'm saying, only way somebody gets older and gets better is that you must do it on purpose. You cannot get older and get better by accident. It's impossible. You must be doing it on purpose, meaning You are consciously and intentionally trying to improve yourself. If you're not consciously and intentionally trying to prove yourself and you are over the age of 21, you are naturally getting worse. Guaranteed. I don't have to know you. I don't have to see you. I don't need to hear your explanation. You are naturally getting worse. That is what the law of entropy states. You want to see this, an example of this, is imagine any of you who has a house with a yard with some grass. If you didn't cut the grass for a month, what would your yard look like? All right, that's entropy. All of you have teeth, right? Most of you have teeth. Okay, if you didn't brush your teeth or floss at all for a whole month, what would your teeth look and feel like? All right, and smell like? All right, we all know the answer. All right, that's entropy. And the reason why most people don't get better, and there's a joke that I tell people is this: if you have not been to or let's say you haven't seen any of your former high school classmates for a long time. You haven't seen them. You haven't been to the reunion. You didn't look at the pictures on Facebook when they had the reunion. You haven't seen any of your classmates from high school in a while, and you're wondering how they're doing. You don't have to go look them up. I'll tell you exactly how they're doing. All of them, they only three things changed about most of the people you went to high school with. They are older, they got fatter, and they got uglier. That's the only three things that happened to them. Otherwise, they didn't change. Now, are there some exceptions to this? Of course there are exceptions. The general rule is the three things I just told you. They got older, fatter, and uglier. Nothing else changed. How do I know this? I just told you. The law of inertia. The law of entropy. People just naturally get worse. And most people are not trying to get better. That's why I can confidently state that most people just get worse. If I can take any person I see on a regular basis right now, if 10 years went by and I didn't see them at all, I could bet money. The majority of those people just got older, fatter, and uglier since the last time I saw them. Maybe one or two of them got better because they're being conscious and intentional about getting better. But if you're not conscious and intentional about improvement, you are guaranteed getting worse. Okay, so we're supposed to be talking about grifters. Okay, most people who get called grifters are in some way, shape, or form challenging the status quo. David said you got the third day in the game. The game? I don't have a book called The Game. I think Work on Your Game System Manual. That's the book that we offer as a order bump to the third day. So that's the one you probably got. I remember you asked about the link. Yes. So most people get called grifters are in some way challenging the status quo. And I'm going to take questions and comments at the end, by the way. If you challenge the status quo, most people are going to call you a grifter. You notice that you don't get called a grifter when you're saying the thing that the majority of the audience agrees with. Notice those people never get called grifters. So, and it depends on who the audience is. So again, it depends on the audience. So if I go to a MAGA rally and I start spewing Democrat and liberal talking points, then the MAGA supporters at that rally are going to call me a grifter because they're going to say, oh, well, you're just grifting to support the Democrats and liberals. And they'll probably say other things about me as well. If I go to a Democratic convention and I start saying things that are supportive of MAGA and Trump, then the Democrat supporters and the liberals, they're going to call me a grifter, or you're just grifting for Trump. So it just depends on your audience. Who calls you a grifter depends on the audience, where, again, this is one of the reasons why it's nonsense. Because if you're grifting no matter what you're doing. And it doesn't matter who you're doing it to or who you're doing it for or who sees it. Grifting is grifting. Grifting is not subjective. It is, but it isn't. If we're talking about the actual definition of the word grifting, it means you're a con man or you're scamming people. If I'm scamming you, I'm scamming you. It doesn't matter if you like the fact that I'm scamming people or you don't like the fact that I'm scamming people. If I'm scamming, I'm scamming. But what's interesting about the way grifter is used, again, colloquially, people only use it when they use it as a pejorative to attack somebody, excuse me, who has an opinion or position or information that they don't like. That's how someone becomes a grifter. I just don't like what you're saying. I don't like what you're representing. I don't like what you're supporting. So therefore, I'm going to call you a grifter. When you go against the popular narrative, and again, popular is subjective. So what's popular over here is the opposite of what's popular over there. So depending on where you are, you go against what's popular. People generally, when you go against what they have accepted, they generally tend to react with emotion rather than logic. This is just common human nature. When you share with someone something that they strongly disagree with, most people's natural response to that is emotion, not logic. And when someone's natural response is emotion, that doesn't make them a bad person, because there's something you might say that I may have an emotional response to, but it's what I do with that emotional response that matters. Because what some people do when they hear something they emotionally disagree with, that emotion immediately travels to their vocal cords, and they say something about you to attack you personally, to basically discredit you and, in turn, what you said. That's how people who don't have a emotional impulse control, that's what they do. And some of them might even get physical to hear something that they don't like. But this is the emotional reaction when someone hears something that they don't like, is to attack you on a personal level. The logical reaction, because I'll hear things that I disagree with. Again, if you go follow me on X, my X name is DreAllDay, and some days more than others, depending on how much I'm on social media, I will engage with people when they say something that I disagree with. I may not strongly disagree, because often they're talking about current events and social issues, and I don't know if I have a super strong emotional stance on anything. I have stances, but they're more logical. So I'm not emotionally engaged in almost any subject. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm deeply emotionally engaged in. I don't think there's anyone. It would have to be something that's like personal to me. Like if you're talking about my personal, like my kids, my actual kids, not just kids in general. Kids in general, I may have a logical pushback against something you say, but if you're talking about my actual kids, I might have an emotional pushback, but my actual kids are not public discussion. So I don't think I have one. But when I do say things, I will get a legion of people, quote unquote people. You'll never know. Sometimes these are trolls and they don't have real faces or real names. They will come with an emotional reaction to something that I say because I've attacked something that they hold deeply on an emotional level. It doesn't make them wrong. It's just me observing. How is this person reacting to something that they don't like? Or how is this person responding to something that they don't like? And then again, as I already said, people attack your character rather than attacking your point. And one of the ways they attack you is calling you a grifter. Or when I'm doing these lives, somebody will say, oh, well, just because you have on a suit and tie and just because you have books on your bookshelf doesn't mean you're smart, doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. And logically, that is actually a true point. That doesn't mean I'm smart. It doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. But the things that you hear me saying are why I know what I'm talking about. Now, whether you think I'm smart or not, I'll leave that to you. So the definition of grifting means there's somehow money involved. All right, this is where the grifting part comes in, because somehow this person is making money. So you are a supporter of the Democrats, or you're a supporter of the Republicans. You must be grifting in order to work for them. And there are some people who are out there doing it, but I don't even call them grifters. All right, there are many people who I follow on social media who I disagree with their social and whenever they're talking about a political thing, I may generally disagree with their stance. And there are a bunch of them. I follow them because I want to see what they're saying. I want to hear how they are steering the conversation, because some of these people are very influential. I may disagree with them, but we can't deny the fact that they're influential. So I'll follow them and see what they're saying. And if they say something I disagree with, sometimes I will point out to them, not by calling them grifters. I would never use that term to call somebody that. What I would say to them is, okay, you're saying this, but at the same time, Roland Martin. At the same time, I'm not even going to say anybody else's name, at least not today. He's a person I thought of. You work for the Democratic Party, all right? They pay you, all right? They're writing you checks. And there's a bunch of other folks I see on there. I don't even always remember their names. Nicole Hannah-Jones is another one. She blocked me, by the way. You work for the Democratic Party, all right? So they pay you to say the things that you're saying. What's the other woman's name? What's the woman with the short hair who just got her show canceled off MSNBC? Joy Reid, all right? Somebody like them. All right, I will respond to them and say, you work for the Democratic Party, so you're making this statement as if you're saying it objectively, but you don't have the freedom to say anything other than what you just said. You don't have the freedom to have an opposite opinion. So how much should we believe and or buy into the things that you're saying? And again, I get blocked by a lot of people by calling them out on a logical level in this way. Because you know what? If I call them out on a personal level, if I just personally attack them, I would probably get more engagement from them if I just attack them personally. Why? Because they could just attack me personally. And we could just go back and forth throwing mud at each other on a personal level. But when I attack them on a logical level and come with an argument that is solid enough that the only way they can respond is by responding with logic of their own, if they don't have any, they can't say anything. So, and if I happen to say something that tends to get some traction, meaning a bunch of people see it and now it's getting engagement, they end up having to either respond to me because it's overwhelming that people are maybe agreeing with what I'm saying, or they block me. So that's why I end up getting blocked by a lot of people who don't really have any logic to back up their arguments, but they do have emotion. If I came at them with emotion, they would just engage with me, beat me at the emotional game, and then I would end up, quote unquote, losing. But if you come at them logically, they often don't have any pushback. So either, with a lot of these folks, they either just don't say anything back to me when I respond to things that they're saying, even when their audience probably wants a response, or I end up getting blocked. So I'm blocked by people who I don't even know I'm blocked by. Like, I'll be on X sometimes and I'll see somebody make a post and they'll say something and I'm thinking, that's interesting. And then I'm looking at the post and I see it's grayed out. I can't respond to it. And it's grayed out because you can't respond because they blocked you. And I'm like, who is this person? I've never said a word to this person. So what's interesting is on X, sometimes people will block you because they see you say something and they never say anything to you, and they just don't like your stance. They'll just block you. I get preemptively blocked by people on X. So I often run into people who I'm like, who is this person? I never said anything to this person. They never said anything to me, but they have me blocked. For what reason? Where'd this come from? Ibram X. Kendi, for example. He's the guy who wrote the How to Be an Anti-Racist book. It was a very influential book. I do not agree with 80% of what he put in the book, but we cannot deny the influence of the book. Now, he had me blocked on social media. I was looking him up like maybe a year and a half ago. And I was about to say something and put his name in it. And then I looked up his profile, and he had me blocked. And I had never spoke to this man. I never said anything to him. He never said anything to me, but he has me blocked. Again, from where? Where'd this come from? I don't know. Anyway, just because somebody's making money doing something that you disagree with does not mean that they're a scam artist. This one we have to spend some time on. Just because someone is making money doing a thing that you disagree with does not mean that they are scamming. And scamming is the definition of grifting. Basically, we kept it pretty simple. Someone's not a grifter just because they're doing something you don't like. So if you're not a fan of girls selling their bodies on OnlyFans, that does not make them grifters, because the men who are paying to see those bodies are doing so willingly. This is a fair exchange between the two of them. Again, first law of economics is supply and demand. So you may disagree with what is being supplied, and you may disagree with the fact that anyone is demanding it, but that doesn't mean that either side of that transaction is wrong for doing what they're doing. That doesn't make it a scam. It's only a scam if I'm dishonest and I tell you it's going to be one thing, is another thing. That's a scam. But if I tell you it's going to be this, and then I give you the very thing that you thought it was going to be, that's honest business. Again, you don't have to agree with it, but it is honest business. And again, this requires people detaching their emotions from their judgments. And this is very difficult for most human beings to do. So again, someone being dishonest requires you got to prove it. And this is something that I've been saying when we talked about these court cases. When we talked about Mr. AT, the guys from Romania who have all these alleged allegations against them, haven't even been to trial yet. You got to prove it. I've maintained that position about them the entire time. When it comes to Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, as many of you call him, he got a court date. His trial is coming up in about a month. All right, I'm going to be paying attention to that trial. Guaranteed, we're going to be talking about that one as it goes along. You got to prove it. Now, you accused him. You're holding him. He's incarcerated right now. You got to prove it. When it comes to the black kid who stabbed the white kid in Texas, all right, he has a murder charge right now. Who knows what charge they're actually going to go to trial with? But the state has to prove that this guy is guilty, and if they don't prove it, then he walks. That's the way it works. So you got to prove it. If you accuse someone of something that is illegal or dishonest, or you are somehow, some way trying to undermine someone's credibility with a personal attack on their character, I say to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong, but it also doesn't mean that you're right. And the law of the land in the world in which we live is innocent until proven guilty. So if you're the one accusing someone of doing something that is wrong, dishonest, or illegal, you must prove it. The burden of proof is on you. And until you prove it, then I'm not accepting it. That's how it works. And ideally, this is the way everybody thinks. If everybody thought this way, then a lot of the conversations I've had on this live, I wouldn't even need to have. I wouldn't have to talk about Mr. AT, because y'all know what I'm talking about when I say Mr. AT, right? The bald-headed guy who used to be a kickboxer who's accused of misogyny, whatever the hell that means, and all that. You got to prove it. Whatever the charge is, okay, go to court, get on the stand, put your hand on the Bible, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, then say what you said. Don't just say it on social media, because you can say anything on social media. There's no accountability. If you lie on the stand, you go to jail. So I want to hear what somebody has to say on Facebook. Go to court and say the same thing if you truly believe it, because if you get caught lying there, now you get a penalty. So be very careful what you hear people of accepting anything you hear on social media. It doesn't mean it's all lies, but it also doesn't mean they believe it. So this is generally a way of knowing that what you are doing or saying is making people uncomfortable if they're calling you a grifter. That's usually what it means. And that's why people attack you personally. Again, if you attack my point, then maybe my point is off. I'm open to hearing what you got to say. You see, when I do these lives, I get into the comments, and sometimes someone offers something. I'm like, okay, I don't know that to be true, but maybe your perspective that's different from mine might actually be more accurate. Let's find out. And I use ChatGPT as an arbiter. Doesn't mean ChatGPT is always right. You got to ask it the right questions about the right things. And you know what they say about people attacking you. It only happens when you're making an impact. So people who get called grifters, much more than myself. This is not really about myself. It's about people whose reach on certain subjects is a lot bigger than mine, because they talk about current events like all day. Like that's their business. So Candace Owens is a good example. She talks about current events like all day. Every video she puts out is about something that's happening in the news right now. I don't want to be in that business because I don't want to have to chase current events. I will talk about them here, but I don't want my whole business to be about that because that can be, it sounds like it's very tiring. And if anything happens, you're on vacation, oh, now you got to say something. Or maybe you don't, but then you miss the wave. You missed the wave of talking about it because you were on vacation while that thing happened. Now the whole week went by and now it's not a big story anymore. You missed the wave of maybe collecting that money and many others. So all that said, everybody, let me run to the restroom here. And then we're going to get into the comments here. And let's talk about, we talked about a lot of things here today. We didn't really talk about grifting that much. I talked about it enough. But let me run to the restroom. Give me a 90-second break. Right after these messages, we will get to what we need to talk about. While y'all are waiting, what I'll do, because often I just leave y'all here sitting in silence. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the VSL, we call it the video sales letter. That's the video you see at the top of a page for my new book called The Sales Discipline System. So here I am grifting. All right, telling you about my book. I'm going to let this video play for 90 seconds. The video is longer than 90 seconds. I'm going to let it play for 90 seconds so y'all can hear it. While you wait for me to come back, I'll be right back. Let's make sure the video starts quick. You don't know me. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm the author of 40+ books. I've done 4 TEDx talks. And I own this company called Work on Your Game, where we work with sales teams, sales trainers, entrepreneurs, and professionals on systematizing and scaling your businesses up from the 6-figure level to the 7-figure level. I'm here to tell you about my newest book, The Sales Discipline System, that I'm going to give you completely for free. First, let me tell you what it is, what it does, and why you want to get it. I wrote this book for the everyday salesperson who knows they need to go out there and hustle, know that you need to follow up, know you need to be prospecting, know you need to be following your system to make sure you're hitting your sales quotas and hopefully surpassing those quotas and making the money that you want to make from the highest paid profession and the oldest profession in the world, which is sales. I wrote this book because it's broken down into 3 specific parts that every professional salesperson needs to master. The first part is going to be setting your clear targets and clear goals. We all know that clarity is one of the keys to success. When a person has clarity, then they are no longer stuck, they're no longer procrastinating, and they can actually go out and get their job done the way it's supposed to be done. So the first couple points I'm going to give you here in this book are all going to be about setting clear targets and being really, really clear on your goals, exactly what you want to do, when you want to do it, why you want to do it, exactly how you want to do it. The second part is about making sure that you are fully prepared for what is coming in front of you. The number one hallmark of a professional is to be disciplined, and part of discipline is being consistent. Part of consistency is being prepared ahead of time. All right, we are back. Hopefully y'all appreciated and tolerated my grift of letting that video play. So, good morning. How are you?
Well, Mom is just doing something well. She can give me a different color instead of doing that.
Different color of what?
A different color slime.
I don't know if you have any more. I think she said you don't have any more. You got it all out. You're using it all.
Well, can you help me find one more?
I don't think there is any more to find. At least not in the house. You understand?
No.
You want to sit here with me?
No. I'm going to put you can tell me I need one more colors.
All right, I'll see you later. All right. So let's get to it. Let's start over here on YouTube. Don't see anything. Facebook. Don't know what we got going on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I can't see anything. So let me start on Instagram, then we'll get over to the folks on TikTok. So on Instagram, Mark Triolia said, knowing this is the cheat code to having the life you want and dream of. Yes. Cosign. King Work said, would you consider yourself real and your information mostly accurate? Would I consider myself real? With King Works, let me ask you a question. To your question, who would consider themselves to not be real? I think every human thinks they're real. So do I consider myself real? I never had anybody ask that. The answer is yes. And my information to be mostly accurate. Yes, I do. Try Hard said, loving the content, would love for you to expand on network marketing. Try Hard, what you should do then is go to workonyourgamepodcast.com. I have talked about network marketing in episode number 1503, the business and personal growth benefits of network marketing. I did a whole podcast episode talking about network marketing and my experience in it and how it actually helped me in many ways. Even though I did not build a full business as a network marketer, I appreciate the experience because it taught me a lot that I didn't get from college. So Try Hard Advancements, again, that's workonyourgamepodcast.com. We're on episode like 3,300 now, but that was episode 1,500. So go to that website and you'll see the list of all the episodes. You can listen to any one of them right there. So let's see what we got over here in the comments on TikTok. I think we'll be able to get through every comment here today. So I was able to scroll to the top. See, evergreen topics don't draw as much commentary, but there is commentary. So let's see what we got. Caro Z said, what a grifter. Yeah, I just said that. Tree in the forest was funny, Nikki, yesterday. Yes, and we talked about the tree in the forest. And the philosophical question. Marky Man, good morning. Nice person said, where did you get the Donald Trump suit? Is that what this is? What makes it a Donald Trump suit? That is a red tie? This tie actually is not red. This tie is actually pink. And you see the designs on it. Usually, presidents don't have designs on their ties. Usually, their ties are very plain. I don't know if that's a requirement of the uniform, but y'all notice that? The president, no matter who it is, they never wear a tie that actually has a design on it. It's always plain, a plain solid color, and then the suit is always a plain solid color. And this suit, by the way, is not a plain solid color. There is some subtle, y'all probably can't see it on camera, but maybe you can. There's some subtle like vertical and horizontal lines. It's kind of like squares on this suit. So this is not the normal presidential suit. And I think my suits fit me better than Donald Trump's fit his, because I'm in better shape than Donald Trump. But to answer your question, where I got it from, where did I get the suit from? I don't remember. So Amber, thank you for the team bracelet and the goats. Carla, Indiana, good morning to you. Nice person said, is that like good-looking women on TikTok asking for gifts is grifter? No, they're not grifters. If a woman on TikTok asks for a gift, I never heard of that. I don't consume TikTok, but if a woman on TikTok is asking for a gift and someone gives it to her, how is she grifting? She asked for a gift and you gave it to her. That's not grifting. Even if she asks for a gift and no one gives it to her, she's not grifting. She's just asking for something, and if the answer is yes, you give it to her, and the answer is no, you don't give it to her. What's wrong with that? Good morning, Courtney. Gorgeous B, thank you for the gifter badge, or congrats on the gifter badge. Black Weasel, you went and took it. Butterfly 83 Howard, good morning to you. Michelle, good morning. Murphy the Mutt, thank you for sharing a live. Strategy Brands said it's going to get worse. I don't know which part you're talking about, but you're right. Whatever it is going to get worse. Yes. Live Free said there's always opposing opinions. That's a fact. Dan Buck says, us guys was talking at work. One dude said he don't want to hear no conspiracy. I don't trust the government. Well, I mean, he is entitled to call it that. But a lot of things that we at one point call conspiracies eventually come out to be the actual truth. Not all of them, but some of them. Jennifer WWP, thank you for the heart. Dan said he didn't want to hear no conspiracy, but he does not trust the government. LOL. Yeah, so it's interesting because the government can create conspiracies, but a lot of people don't realize or believe. It's not even about realizing. It's they decide to not believe that something's a conspiracy just because of the source. And that's why we're in an information war, because anybody can decide what they want to believe and what they don't, regardless of where it came from. That's the problem, if you consider it a problem. Butterfly said, I agree. People will believe whatever they want. Yes, that's correct. And people are petty. Well, sometimes maybe they're right. No, you never know. That's the problem. That's the issue that we have here today, folks, is that we don't know which information we should trust and which information we shouldn't trust. We all basically get to decide. What am I going to trust? What am I not going to trust? There's really no official arbiter. There are some social media platforms that try to say, I even had TikTok say this to me once, is that while we encourage people to share their opinions, we all must agree on a specific set of verifiable facts, or something like that TikTok said to me, because they took down some post of mine for quote unquote misinformation because it goes against the accepted set of verifiable facts. Well, who the hell tells me what verifiable facts I have to accept and what makes them verifiable? And again, it's a nonsense concept. And that's the reason why I didn't like the fact that a lot of social media platforms had what they call fact checking. I like the community notes option better than fact checking, because fact checking requires, or not requires, but it says we're going to have this set of people right here, these 10 people in this room. They're going to decide what's fact and what's not. And anybody who goes against what these 10 people have concluded, you're wrong. Now, that's bullshit. Why do I have to agree with what these 10 people said? But community notes is we're going to let the whole community decide what's true and what's not, and let the whole community as a group decide what is credible and what's not credible. It doesn't mean the whole community is right either, but I'd rather the whole community be able to contribute to the conversation rather than having just 5 or 10 people decide what's okay and what's not okay. What happened, son? Why are you crying?
Yeah.
What happened?
Because I just having colors left.
Yeah, well, I told you we don't have any more left. But what's wrong with the ones you have? You can't play with the ones you have. Anime says they forget all politics and steal from us. Who's they? Who are you talking about?
Well, Mommy doesn't have any more colors left.
Well, you use a lot of colors. You're using them right now. Does it have to be something new? You can't play with the old stuff? What about the old stuff? Can you play with your old stuff?
Sure, but...
But what?
Something.
Does it have to be new? Can't you play with old stuff? We got to keep buying you new toys? Is that the only way to satisfy you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So, I don't have any more black slimes left.
You don't have any more what?
Black slime. I need black slime.
You need black slime?
Yeah.
Why do you need it?
Because I need it for my collection.
Oh, for your collection. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. How many different slimes do you have already? You got like 20.
One, but it seems to be missing the other one.
Okay, maybe we'll...
Put it in my hand.
Well, maybe we'll figure out how to get you some more in the future. But right now, we don't have any. Do you want to stay here with me while I answer questions from the audience?
No, I'm just gonna go.
Okay. Your prerogative. All right. Back to the conversation. So, see you later. All right. Traditional said all 3 points are correct. Yes. Irma V, good morning to you. Butterfly said, I believe in the law of association. Well, it was a law. So, I mean, it applies to us whether we... A lot of people don't even know about it, but it applies to everybody. Kingdom Business said, taking walks can help the subconscious. Yes, it can, depending on what you do on that walk. The Silent said, the YouTube feed sound is off. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I can't really diagnose it while I'm actually still streaming, so I'll check it later. Butterfly said, all the 3 points are very important in becoming a better person. Yes, they're true. So a lot of you say you sit in the car for peace. Yeah. Tends to happen when you have, especially when you have little ones at home, because it's never actually quiet unless they are all sleeping at the same time. And Butterfly, sleep is critical for mental health. Yes, it is. Thank you, Carl, for telling people to tap the screen. Can we get to 20K here, folks? We're at 15K. So a lot of you said the bad habits. Yes, everybody has them. Slay House said my habits were overpowering my attention. Yes, it happens to everybody. Kingsley said Trump propagandist that talks eloquently. How am I a Trump propaganda? We're not even talking about Trump. But Kingsley, you got to go. You wanted attention, you got it. Nick King, thank you for the follow. Dr. Michelle Henry, good morning. Tracy said cosign, thank you. S&W Farms, thank you for the rose. Chase, good morning. Butterfly said, yes, you have to want to get better. It applies to having better financial. It applies to everything. Absolutely. David says, you got the third day in the Work on Your Game system manual. Yes, congrats. Kelly, thank you for joining. Kingsley, I'm reading Kingsley's comment after we already got rid of him. Dally MAK, thank you for sharing the live. Howie said, I'm surprised your lives don't have more numbers. You're very well spoken and informative. Well, it depends on the subject, Howie. On a subject like this one, it tends to be less than if I talk about something that's like happening in the news. So if I talk about something like Trump's tariffs, I already did that earlier this week, then it'll be like 2 or 3 times more people. But if I talk about something that's evergreen, then it tends to be fewer people. But the interesting thing about, well, maybe to some people, about marketing is not always about more people. It's about the quality of the people that you're marketing to. So it depends on, again, what point you're trying to get across, who you're trying to get across to, and if you want those people to take another step. More is not always better, especially in marketing. You got to have the right type of people. So, for example, Walmart wants to reach as many people as possible because of what they sell and who their customer is. But Rolls-Royce does not want everybody who goes to Walmart to come into their showroom floor and look at the cars, because most of those people are not qualified to buy the car. Rolls-Royce is happy if only a handful of people walk in, because the handful who do walk in are probably qualified and capable of purchasing the vehicle. So Rolls-Royce does not do their marketing the same way that Walmart does their marketing, if that makes sense. So it just depends on the topic. And again, it depends on the aims of the subject matter and the aims of the person. If I just wanted to get as many people as possible in everything I did, I would operate a lot differently than I do. But I appreciate the compliment. Holly said, it's glazing to like a creator and compliment them. Glazing? I didn't use that word here today. I know some people use it, but What I'm talking about here today is grifting, not glazing. So that's a different term that people use. What is this?
This is all my toys.
Oh wow, that's all your toys? I think you got a lot more toys than this.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot more than this. This is all you got?
Yeah, this is all I got.
That is not all you got. You got a lot more than this.
Well, I just got over this for Mommy, but she didn't want it.
Oh, well, what do you want me to do with it? I'm in the middle of talking to my audience right now.
Can we have some of those?
Not right now. You gotta eat your breakfast first. Eat your breakfast first, then I'll give you some. I got a bag of candy on my desk, and he asked for some. And now he's crying because I won't give it to him. Anyway, let's see. So, where was I? Glazing to like a creator and compliment them. No. So, Holly, I don't know why you asked that question. Let's see. Okay, I think I got through most of the comments. Where am I? Where was I? Sherry said, LOL. I hope you're laughing with me, not at me. All right, so I blocked Kingsley already, but he had left a bunch of comments before I blocked him, so I see those comments going through. Olipop said, many of y'all don't like facts. Well, it depends. First of all, who is y'all? Who are you referring to, Olipops? Secondly, here's the challenging thing about quote-unquote facts, is that facts can be hand-selected and also hand-ignored. You can ignore certain facts and utilize certain facts to paint a certain picture. And you can mislead someone with facts. There's a book called How to Lie with Statistics. It's very easy to lie to people with factual information. All you have to do is pick the facts that support your position and then ignore the facts that don't support your position and then just present that information. For example, there's a black guy who I follow on X. I forget the guy's name. I think his name is Daryl something. And he was posting these quote-unquote facts that there are X number of black people in America, but there are only X number of murders in America. So it's only like less than 1%. It's like the small, less than 1% amount of black people commit murders. But people talk about black people as if we're always murdering, as if we are murderers as black people. And he was trying to make what I guess he claimed to be an intellectual argument. It was a complete nonsense argument, because I said to him, well, you're handpicking facts that serve your position, but your position is based in nonsense because you are probably smart enough to know you're not taking the right facts into context. The right fact would be, let's look at the per capita, and then let's compare that to other groups. It's not about absolutely, because on an absolute level, every racial group in America, the number of people who commit murders is less than 1%. So based on that, we can say that about every group. No, there's no group that is just a murderer, because less than 1% of people commit murders in every group. But if we compare one group to the next, to the next, to the next, black people are in the lead. Now, see, if he put that data out there, he couldn't say what he was saying. So that's the way you can easily mislead people, by just choosing whichever facts you want to use and ignoring the facts that you don't want to use. So, Lollipop, to respond to what you're saying here, it's not that people don't like facts. I don't know who you're talking about, but just because someone looks at a fact that you present and they question your position does not mean that they're wrong, and nor does it mean that you're right. It depends on how the facts are presented. And again, that's the way people get easily misled these days. And that's the reason why I don't like the concept of someone even saying, well, I have the facts, or these are the facts, or we have to agree to it and accepted set of facts. No, we don't. We don't have to agree to an accepted set of facts, because an accepted set of facts can easily ignore a bunch of other facts that would disprove those facts. So what I say to anyone who's presenting anything they call a quote-unquote fact, and this is a question all of you can use back to anyone who presents a fact and they have a strong position on a subject, is I would ask them, who has the strongest argument, or what is the strongest argument that goes against your argument? What is it, and what's your response to it? You ask everybody that, most people go quiet because they have never even considered it, and they don't want even to entertain the fact that there's a fact for you. They don't want to entertain the fact that there's probably a strong argument that goes against theirs, because it will require them to disprove their own position. And the way that what critical thinkers do, and this is what scientists are supposed to do, is they look to disprove their positions. That's the reason why we had a scientific method. You come up with a hypothesis. That means I think this might be a thing, or we're going to find out, and then you go and try to prove yourself right, and you try to prove yourself wrong. You try to do both. And that's what a critical thinker is able to do. So if I have a strong position on any subject, you could ask me that question. Oh, Dre, okay, then what's the strongest argument going against your position, and what do you say to that strong argument? For example, yesterday I mentioned this many times, was about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Am I a fan of DEI? The answer is no. I am not a fan of DEI. I am actually strongly against DEI, even as a black person who is supposed to be. If you ask most black people, I'm supposed to support it, right? But I go against DEI. I'm not a fan of DEI, and I've already explained many reasons why I'm not a fan. What somebody could ask me is, Dre, okay, what's the strongest argument that opposes your argument, and what do you say to that argument? So the strongest argument against me, if I had to think of it off the top of my head, this is called the steel man approach. So a straw man is when you basically weaken someone's argument and then beat it up. A steel man is when you strengthen someone's argument. So the strongest argument against someone who is against DEI is, hey, the reason why DEI is needed, Dre, is because traditionally there were many organizations and industries that would not consider men or they wouldn't consider women. They wouldn't consider people of the rainbow community, and they would not consider... What? You got him? Okay. And they would not consider people of color. They wouldn't consider women. They wouldn't consider people of the rainbow group. And therefore... Okay. I'm doing my live stream, so I need you to be quiet, okay? And they would not consider those people. Therefore, we need DEI policies to force these people to at least look at these other highly qualified people who otherwise will be excluded from opportunity. Therefore, DEI is needed. And that is a legitimate reason. Is that a legitimate argument? Yes, it is. That is a legitimate argument, and I say I understand your point, and I get that. At the same time, it is more important to me that people be chosen based on their level of performance and skill. Bye-bye. Based on their performance and skill level rather than their identity, because you cannot prioritize both at the same time. You're either prioritizing identity or you're prioritizing performance, but you cannot have co-leaders. They're not two steering wheels in a car. There's one steering wheel. So which one is the steering wheel? Performance or identity? And that's that's my pushback to the pushback. But as a critical thinker, I should be able to recognize, make the point, and understand the value of a point that goes strongly against any point that I have. So when anyone comes out and says, well, I have the facts, there's no such thing as the facts. You have facts, but there's no definitive amount of facts. There's always other facts that can disprove your facts. And a critical thinker understands that, and they will make that argument for you. You want to see people who are really good at this, or who should be really good at it, they're called lawyers. A lawyer's job is to not only know the strongest points of your case, whether you're the defense or you're the prosecution, but you also have to consider what is the other side, my opposing counsel, going to do. So that case in Texas, when you got the prosecution saying that this kid is a murder, he committed murder, where you're trying to send him to jail, and you got the defense who says, well, this kid was just doing, he was just defending himself. It was just self-defense. The defense team needs to ask themselves, what is the prosecution going to do? How are they going to go about this case? And what is the best points that they have? They got to be ready for that, because if they're not ready for it, they're going to lose. And that kid's going to go to jail. And the prosecution has to be ready for what is the defense going to say. And whatever argument they have for self-defense, et cetera, the prosecution has to be ready for that, because if they're not ready, that's going to get used against them, and they're going to lose, and that kid's going to walk free, and the prosecutor looks like an idiot because they weren't able to close that case. So a good lawyer always has to be able to argue the other side of their position. Even if they believe one side, they got to know what the other side is. And whenever you see one side get caught, off balance, is because maybe they got surprised with something in the court that they didn't see coming. So again, you pay attention to court cases, this is what happens. Good lawyers must do this. Serena Townsend, thank you. James Collins, good morning. Kelly, thank you. R. Filling said he needs new stuff. LOL. Yeah, he got enough new stuff. Kids, they always want something new. The old stuff is old to them. They need something new. Courtney said, get that baby more slime. Yeah, he has enough of it. He don't need it anymore. He needs to get familiar with his old stuff, not new stuff. Yeah, for his collection. He needs more slime for his collection. Holly said, take him to Walmart, get him the Darth Vader black slime. I saw some yesterday. Holly, I don't shop at Walmart. But maybe I will go to Walmart. It's probably cheaper there. Yeah, we're going to keep buying them new shit. Might as well get it from Walmart. A-Town said, he collecting, man. Help a brother out. Yeah, exactly. Amber said, I responded to one of your posts on X. Did you see? I don't think so. When was it? Was it today? I'll have to look. I get a lot of notifications on there. I don't even see them all because there's so many of them. Jeffrey said, you're a good dad. Attentive and engaged. Love it. Thank you. Well, I'm trying to be attentive to what I'm doing right now, but I appreciate it. Strategy Brand said, you might have to stop the YouTube live and just restart it to reset the audio. Well, what I'll do, the thing is, I'm live. I'm using Rumble Studio, so I'm live in like 4 different places through Rumble Studio. So if I stop it, then it's going to stop all of them. So I'm not going to do that. What I'll do is I'll download the video from somewhere else and upload to YouTube when it's over. I don't know why that happened. Amber said that was to me. Oh, it was about black culture. I responded to one of your posts on X. Did you see it was about black culture? I don't know. I think a lot of people responded to that post about black culture. I got to see. I got to check my notifications. Thank you, Kelly. Cutest kid ever. Holly said, no, another person told me I was glazing you, and I just couldn't reply to her directly. LOL. Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, glazing is another form of grifting. So glazing is like people saying that you are being too complimentary of somebody else rather than objectively looking at them. And anyway, people say that when you're complimenting somebody who they don't want you to compliment. So if I said something like LeBron James, the best player I've seen in the last 20 years, somebody who doesn't like LeBron might say, oh, well, Dre, you're just glazing LeBron. Well, that's my actual opinion. I can offer him a compliment. There's nothing wrong with offering a compliment to somebody if you really believe it. So, and people will call it glazing as a way of kind of making it look like you are just trying too hard to be nice to another person, but is what you actually believe. So, it's another one of those little tricky traps. It's a Socratic trap, even though it's not actually a question. It's a Socratic trap. So they throw that at you as a criticism so that then you get defensive and then you end up defending yourself. So your comment that I was reading, you weren't talking to me, but you were kind of defending yourself. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of it is for them to get you to respond that way and get you defending yourself. Instead, what you could do is either ignore them or you could say what I just said. I know you don't have as much space as I have. Karen said, I want to look you up on YouTube. Love your content and how you speak. So informative. Well, thank you, Karen. Karen Beauty Guru. You can find my YouTube link on my profile on TikTok. So when this live is over, in my profile, let me see how it looks. Because on TikTok, they have like these nested comments. So let me see. So on TikTok, on my profile, as you can see right here, they have a link. You can see the first link that says Sales Discipline Book and 2 more. You click on that, then it'll show you 3 links. So there's one link that I can customize. That's to my latest book. Then the second link is my Instagram, and the third link is my YouTube. And they force you to put those in. Not force you, but you don't have options. It's like not like I could put 3 custom links in there. You got to put a link to a specific thing. So my YouTube's in there, my Instagram's in there, and one of my books is in there. So Marky said, now I know why my wife won't go work out by herself. Yeah, exactly. Marky Man said, yeah, great. Yes, exactly. Some people need the community. Some people can do it on their own. They can work out in a living room by themselves. Some people, they need something more to motivate them and move them to action. So while I'm waiting, see if anybody else have any more comments. I'll wait and see if anybody has anything. While I'm waiting, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So if you like this one, I'm back on Monday. I'm recording this on a Friday for people who are watching on replay. So we'll be back on Monday. I have a show. Y'all call these podcasts. It comes out every single day. It's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on Apple or Spotify. My show is called Work on Your Game. It's been coming out every day for almost 10 years. We started in 2016. So it's 2025. We have over 3,300 episodes of the show recorded. They may not all be published yet. So the last episode that I put out was episode number 3,254. That came out today. Y'all can see it right here. This is the Spotify feed. So you just look for that. See that image at the top left? That's the logo. Work on Your Game. That's me in the picture. And the show comes out every single day. Again, we have episode number 3,254. This came out today. And it's been every single day since 2016. So that's where you can hear me talk for about, I'm looking at the length of these episodes, 26 minutes, 27, 26, 46, 33, 33, 34, 23, 28. So it's about 20 to 30 minutes every day. It's a solo show. I do not interview anybody. I don't have guests on my show. It's just me talking about mostly personal and professional development stuff. Sometimes I talk about current events. Every once in a while is a current event, but it has to be something kind of like that will still be around 6 weeks from now, because I record my episodes probably 6 to 8 weeks before they come out. So it's evergreen material. Amber said, opinions on gender roles, like biology or societal. Well, I think it's a combination of both. I'll answer shortly, briefly. It's a combination of both, because the man was designed to lead. I mean, the testosterone that a man has within him gives him the drive to lead, conquer, and also to defend and to attack when necessary. That's biological. And a woman's role is to nurture. Biologically, a woman is wired to be a nurturer. And societally, those roles are reinforced. So that's what I would say about the gender roles. It doesn't mean that a man cannot nurture, of course. It doesn't mean that a woman cannot lead, of course. But biologically, our natural wiring is for a man to lead and a woman to support. What's interesting is that in the world that we're in now, a lot of people are pushing for change. You know, this whole movement for change thing. Some people want to change. They just want change just for the sake of change, not because the change is going from good to better or bad to improvement. People want change just to say that they made a change. This is what happens when entropy seeks in. When you don't have standards and processes in place and rules in place, what happens is people just want to change things just to say that they change things. So this is why you get a lot of people pushing back on gender roles. That's one reason. That's not the only reason. That is one reason why you get people pushing back on it. So people are like, well, hey, if a man decides that he is a girl, then he can just decide that he's a girl, and that's okay. And because the standard has been removed, now people are accepting this. Again, 30 years ago, if you went to school in 7th grade and you used to be a boy, you show up to school the next day and say, hey, I'm a girl now, people would laugh at you and they would send you to the counselor's office to get help because obviously there's something wrong with your brain. Nowadays, you do it, you get a celebration. Why? Because the standard has been removed. It's the same thing when it comes to the LGBTQ community. The next thing coming, those of y'all, some of you know about it, some of you don't, is the silent P. What is the silent P? You know what that P stands for? It stands for adults who are interested in children, minors. That's the next one that's coming. And because we are slowly removing and less enforcing the standard, that is going to become a thing. And at some point, the thing is, as those letters keep getting added, people draw more and more lines. I don't have a problem with the LGB. LGB, I don't have a problem with it. That's what you are. That's what you are. I'm not, but if that's what you are, cool. Then we got to the T. If you're an adult, okay, do what you want to do. All right, you're a woman, you decide you want to be a man. All right, I don't care. Do what you want to do. But then when we start influencing the kids to do it, that's where I draw the line. And some people drew the line before that. If you're staunchly religious, let's say if you're a staunch Christian, you might have drawn the line at LGB. I didn't draw the line at that. I understand why some did. I didn't. I drew the line at the T when they started telling it to kids. And when you start taking that rainbow and bringing it to school and telling it to the kids and start writing books about it and teaching kids that, oh, you don't have to be what you were assigned and this whole assigned at birth nonsense. You're not assigned at birth. You were assigned by God. I started drawing the line at that. So that's where I drew the line. Some people didn't draw the line at that. Some of you are going to draw the line when they get to that P. Some people won't draw the line there. And again, if the line keeps moving, we're removing standards, you get chaos. That's exactly how it works. So this is what's going on in the world, speaking on that subject. Amber said, what do I think removed the standard? Well, it wasn't any one thing that removed the standard, Amber. What removed the standard is just that times change, people change. And some influential people or people with either influential people start to think differently or people who thought differently got influenced, whichever way you want to look at it, one or the other. People who thought differently got influenced, or the people who already had influence started thinking differently, or it was a combination of both, actually. It's people who thought differently started getting into the ears of people who had influence, and they got them to go along with it, and that's how they were able to gain steam. That's pretty much what happened. Amber said freedom. What about freedom? What are you saying? Dally Mac. What does that MAPS stand for? I've seen that acronym before, but I don't remember what it stands for. Oh, minor attracted. Yes, I get what you're saying. Minor attracted people. Yes, that's coming. Now, we used to give them a different name. We used to call them pedos. Now they're going to call them minor attracted people. That's another form of standards being reduced in that we stop calling things what they actually are. All right. We used to call it abortion. Now they call it, what do they call it now? A woman's right to choose, or reproductive freedom. Doesn't that sound a lot different than abortion? It sounds like two different things. It's the same thing. So they changed the language of a thing to make it sound more, to kind of clean it up, make it sound safer and healthier than it actually is, or like make it sound like more fun than it is. I heard a guy say that, if someone cheated on their spouse, it was called adultery, but then they changed it to calling it an affair. An affair sounds like something fun, like something, an affair. All right, an affair. That sounds like a fun thing that you're taking place. But if you call it what it actually is, which is adultery or cheating, then it sounds a lot more harsh. So what happens is, this is one of the things that people are doing. I did an episode on this. I'll tell you what episode that was, just so y'all understand. I got receipts on this stuff. ATAN. Episode number 2605, the satanic attack on language. This is satanic. When you start attacking language and you start discrediting what a word means from the dictionary, or you start changing around the term of a thing. Instead of having a pedo, you call them a minor attracted person. That's an attack on language. That is satanic. What are you doing? You're changing the way that something is worded to make it sound different than what it actually is. That is satanic. And why do I call it satanic? Is because any of you read the book of Genesis? All right, that's what happened. All right, God said this to Adam and Eve. Satan came along and flipped the words around, made it sound like something different than what God said, and that's how he was able to deceive them. All he did was take the same words and flip them around. All of a sudden, the words were the same words, but they had a different meaning when you put them in a different order in a different context. That's what makes something satanic, and that's where everything started, right there. Courtney says some people already think that is okay. Yes, that's what I'm saying, because the standards have been removed and they're slowly the line keeps getting pushed. Melissa says something like that happens, I will give up on people altogether. Well, Melissa, I suggest you don't, because it's going to happen. First of all, that's going to happen. And what you can do is, well, I wouldn't give up on people altogether, because not everybody's going to go along with it. What I believe is going to happen is a bunch of people are going to draw the line there, and the voices are going to get louder. It's not that loud yet, but it's about to get a whole lot louder. Dowling said they changed the language to erode the standards. Words must have meaning. Yes, which is what I just talked about. So you got it. Sage, thank you for the follow. Carla said exactly, satanic. Yes, that's what it is. It's satanic. That's how it started. Satan took the words one way, he flipped them around to mean another thing, and all of a sudden, Adam and Eve got what they were told not to do. Now they believe that they should do it. Now, how do you flip someone like that? Again, Satan has that ability. The power of the tongue. So this is why I pointed it out back in episode 2605 of my show, is because the first thing you do before you start doing crazy things, first of all, you got to get people to accept that the crazy thing is not crazy. That's where you start. You start by getting people to accept that the thing that we used to call crazy is not crazy. They used to call it, if you had a child and you were not married and you had no intentions of getting married to the person you had a child with, they used to call that having babies out of wedlock. That's what it was called. You had a child out of wedlock, and people kind of looked at you funny because you had a child out of wedlock. Now, what they call it, they start calling it baby mamas and baby daddies. That makes it sound a little bit funny, a little bit silly. Now it sounds like it's like this cool thing. Oh, I got a baby mama or my baby daddy. It sounds a little bit different than I had a child out of wedlock, or that my child's a bastard because they don't have a mother and father around. That it sounded a lot more harsh. So then when we relax the standard by changing the language, what happens is now more people feel comfortable doing it. So now people are comfortable having a child with someone they are not married to, and they have no intentions of marrying that person. They're not even trying to get married. They're not even trying to make it work, and that's completely okay. Now it's acceptable. Now you see people doing it, and it's just okay. All right, you see somebody with kids is a funny thing these days. It depends on the community, but you see somebody with kids these days, and you ask, or you try to ask, where's the father at, or you try to kind of find out without asking so directly, where's the father at? And if they let you know in some way that the father's not around, if you're a woman, the father's not around, is acceptable. There's no stain, there's no stigma on you, depending on where this happens. Now, different communities is different. Or if you're a dad and you say, well, I got 3 kids. Someone says, you're a man, you say, I got 3 kids. Right. It's almost, in certain communities, it is almost accepted and expected that those kids are not all by the same woman and you're not with that woman. It's expected. 3 kids, 2 different baby moms is like a normal thing. And again, this didn't used to be a normal thing. That used to be a stigma. A stigma was attached to you if you had kids and you weren't with the person with whom you had your kids. A stigma was attached to a kid. If you showed up somewhere and your mom and dad were not together at home, you just had your mom or just your dad and the parents weren't together, there was a stigma attached to you. Now it's acceptable. Now again, in certain communities, that is still an expectation that there needs to be man, woman, child, but not everywhere. That's the point. James said they're using the kids to help push their agenda. Yeah, of course, because if the kids grow up believing it, then they're going to be the next wave of people who support it. So if you got kids who are in school right now, and they're in 6th grade learning that it's okay for a boy to become a girl, when they are 36 years old, of course they're going to accept it, and there's going to be a whole wave of them, and who's going to push back against it? Everybody who's pushing back are going to be 80 years old and on their way to dying. So they can take over all of society. That's the reason why the pushback is necessary now. Gary Gray said, when you say that's going to happen, tell me you know about Revelations. You are correct. I'm no expert on the Bible, Gary Gray. I'm just speaking logically from what I understand. But if it happens to be in the Bible as well, even better. Amber said, all of this comes from too much freedom and no discipline. Well, that's what we wanted. That's the trade-off of the land of the free. The trade-off of us being in America, Amber, that's a good point that you made, is that the freedom that we have here in America means the trade-off of freedom is that some people are going to use that freedom in ways that you or I may disagree with. That's the trade-off of freedom. Now, you want to see a country where there is no freedom? Go to the country that starts with the letter A, AFG, and the women have to cover themselves. All right, they don't have freedom to do what they want to do. You can't do what you want to do in that country. There are strict rules and strict disciplines to be followed, and everybody operates by those rules. And if you violate those rules, there's going to be a problem. They don't have freedom to do what they want to do. But at the same time, they don't have the craziness that we have here. The trade-off of freedom is you're going to have some craziness. So the question is, which one you want? And it's not that there needs to be necessarily an extreme, but you cannot police human behavior. You can't manufacture behavior in people. So if you give people freedom, like America is the land of the free, home of the brave. One of the reasons why we are as great as we are, and there's so much upward mobility and opportunity, and everybody wants to come here. The reason why is because it is so free. You can be whoever you want to be here. The trade-off of people being who they want to be is some people will choose to be stuff that you don't like. We have to be okay with that. Doesn't mean you can't push back. I will push back, but it doesn't mean I can say, well, this person doesn't. They shouldn't be allowed to be alive, or they shouldn't be here. We got to kick them out the country because they're doing something I disagree with. No, we can't do that. Can't do that, because as soon as you start doing that, then we're taking away freedom. You can't do it that way. We have rules, we have laws, but anybody who's operating within the rules or the laws, just because they have an opinion you disagree with, you have to get into the marketplace of ideas, and you got to go toe to toe with that person and prove why they're wrong. But we can't just say we can't have these people here at all. We can't do that, because that same idea could eventually be used against you. And again, that's why this is a complex conversation, because there's no right answer and there's no perfect solution. Most people want a right answer or a perfect solution to everything, and they want things to be just the way that they want them to be. That's not the way it works in a free space. Now, if you want to have a place like the AFG country where you could just set the rules on everybody and everybody has to follow them, well, look how they live. Look how you want to live like that? Okay, there it is. There's plenty of countries that are like that. You want to be free and do what you want? That's in America. That's how it is. I appreciate you, Amber. Go do some capitalism. Yes. Let's see. Bindu said, you're right on point. Thank you. Fit the Element said, these young people are lied to about how and why to build a family. Well, they're not even trying to build a family. That's the issue. Kelly says, softening the language makes questionable things more palatable. That is very true. Code Red said, the standards have lowered, it seems. So you can take the seams out of it. The standards have lowered, period. Fifth said, even in the late 80s, divorced parents were an embarrassment. That's correct. Or single parents. Carlos said, no one's an expert on the Bible. They like to have others think they are experts. All right, fair enough. That's a good point. Fab said, less crime. Yes. Okay, so we're going to wrap this one up, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back on Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. Whatever's happening in the current events. So we're going to see what's happening in the news between now and Monday. It might be something that's already happening that I haven't talked about. And actually, any of you have a suggestion for a topic? That's the last thing I'll ask for. Any of you got a suggestion for a topic, something that's current event, social issue that I should talk about? Tell me. Maybe it's something I've already done. Maybe it's something I haven't. Last thing I'll ask the audience for. Does any of you have a suggestion on a topic that I should talk about anytime in the upcoming week? If y'all don't have a suggestion, don't worry. I'll come up with something. But if any of you do have something, let me know. I'll give y'all a minute or two to come up with some things or see if anybody has anything, and then we will get to what we need to get to. Today is April the 11th. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, make sure you file your taxes. What's that? Tuesday? The 15th is Tuesday? Yeah, so make sure you get your taxes filed. Go see your tax professional. All right, nothing I'm offering you is tax advice. You should file the taxes. That is, I will give you that advice. All right. Can't get your stimulus check, you ain't file your taxes. All right, all that said, everybody have a great Friday. I'll see you all Monday. Work on your game. We are out of here.